Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda. In today's video we're going to do some Halloween nail art, so I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now, starting off with the first design, we're going to be using a rubber colour base with a gel polish to make an ombre. So I'm going to be using RB10, which is this beautiful milky sparkly shade, and we're going to be teaming this up with Black Galaxy, which is from the Reflective Gel Polish collection. Of course, for any kind of ombre, the ombre brush does make this effortless, so I'm going to make sure I have that to hand. Now I'm going to start off by putting one coat of RB10 as a base, and I'm going to kind of sandwich the Black Galaxy between two layers of this. So we're going to do one coat, and as you can see, in one coat it's quite a sheer milky shade with these pretty holographic sparkles, so it teams up beautifully with a Black Galaxy. And this is a very easy way to do an ombre because sparkles just ombre effortlessly. So I'm going to come in with a thin coat of Black Galaxy at the tip of the nail, just placing this down at the tip, and then using the ombre brush I'm going to start blending it back, and then I'm going to take that blend a little bit further down without disturbing too much of the gel polish that's at the tip of the nail. Now I've done this in one thin coat because we are going to come in and do a second thin coat. Anything that's got black in it you want to work nice and thin with, just so you don't have any issues when it comes to curing. And then also doing this in two thin coats is going to allow you to create that ombre effortlessly. So on the second coat I'm going to repeat the exact same steps as we did on the first coat. So we've applied it to the tip of the nail, making sure it's nice and opaque at the tip, and then blending that colour back. And then I'm just using the very edge of my ombre brush to blend those sparkles down. What also makes this effortless is the rubber bases, after they have cured, they leave behind quite a tacky inhibition layer, so you're able to blend colours into them really easily. Once I've done that second coat, we're going to pop that in to cure, and then I'm going to come back in with our rubber base, taking a small amount of this on my brush, and I'm predominantly applying this down at that nail bed area, building up a slight apex with this. You can build this up a little bit more if you wanted to, because it does have the properties to do that. And then I'm just going to gently feather this down towards the tip of the nail, covering that blend, but then also taking it right to the tip, because it's sheer enough in one coat that it's not going to cover up too much of that black, but then it's going to soften that blend area, and it kind of created this grey smoky look, which I absolutely loved. So once we've done that, we're going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds. Now you could definitely leave this now as it is and it gives off all the Halloween vibes, but I wanted to come in and stamp some little bats over the top. So I'm going to just do these in white. I do think they would look good in black or silver as well, but I quite liked how they looked in white, and it's a little bit different for a bat. So I'm going to stamp two of these on. Now of course, if you don't want to stamp, you could easily hand paint, and you could do all sorts of designs over this. You could come in with some spiders, some ghosts, and it would just give off a kind of more cutesy look. For example, if you wanted to go that route, I'm definitely more a simple or cute Halloween design girl rather than the more gruesome designs, if that makes sense. But anyway, we're then going to come in and seal this all in with a layer of top coat, and I don't think this design needed anything over the top of it, but I wanted to just do something. I think the ombre really speaks for itself in this look, but you could wear this either way, so I thought this way, by adding some nail art over the top, you can see what it looks like with and without nail art. This way, of course, we're going to finish off with a little drop of cuticle oil, so I'm going to come in with Coconut Escape, rub this in and really help replenish those cuticles, because no one wants frightful cuticles. Once we've done this, I'm going to move on to the second design. Now I have actually applied peel off base coat underneath my press on nail tip, so if you're doing nails for content creation, this means I could effortlessly pop off that nail tip and apply another one for this second design. So if you haven't checked out the peel off base coat, I would highly recommend it. On to the second design, we're going to need a black base, so I'm using Kiki London's Classic Black. This is from the Hema Free range, and with black black gel polish, you want to apply it super thin. So I've pretty much wiped off most of the product that's on the brush, and I'm going in and doing a really thin coat of this. And this is because black can be tricky when it comes to curing. If you apply it too thickly, the light isn't able to penetrate and cure it properly, so then you end up with either wrinkling in the gel polish, which is visible and you'll see that it's just wrinkled and looks bubbly, or what will happen is it will end up peeling off after a couple of days of wear because it hasn't been able to cure properly. So you always want to make sure you're applying your black super thin. Don't worry if it looks sheer or uneven in that first coat, because when you come in and apply your second coat, you're going to still keep this super thin, but this is going to be where the pigmentation comes through. So as you can see here, I've gone in and done a second thin coat, but it looks a lot more opaque than what it did on that first coat. So we're curing each coat for 30 seconds, and this is just such a stunning simple black gel polish. Now over the top of this, we're going to be using Cherry Spark, which is a cat's eye gel polish, and I love this one because it's quite a unique cat's eye gel polish because it's glittery, where the other cat's eye gel polishes in the Kiki London range are more of a pearlescent classic cat's eye effect. I love that this one has some sparkles in it. So I'm going to apply a thin coat of this over the classic black. And another thing that I love about this color is applying it over different color bases really switches up the way it looks. It becomes a lot more of a vibrant red if you apply it over a white base. If you apply it over a red base, the red tones come through, but I really love it over this black base for a kind of like dark vampy Halloween look. Now usually I just do a classic sort of swoosh in my cat's eye designs, but this time I decided to just focus the magnet at the tip of the nail, kind of going around just the tip, and it created this really fun effect, which I absolutely love because it makes the tip of the nail look a little bit more black, but then when you tilt the nail in the light, you get that cool effect, which I thought was super fun. Now over the top of this, I'm going to do some isolated chrome stamping, so I need a matte base to begin with. So I'm going to come in and apply a thin coat of the Kiki London Noir matte top coat. Now this, I do quite like how cat's eye looks with a matte finish, but we are going to come back in and make this glossy again, but it does give you the opportunity to see what the design would look like if you'd left it matte. I really love the effect, it completely changes it up, but matte sparkles I do find quite fun. Now because we're going to be doing isolated chrome, even though we have matte top coated, I like to come in and then just gently buff over the nail using the 180 grit side of the Kiki London buffer. This just stops your chrome sticking where you don't want it to stick. So if you do go in and buff, you want to make sure you clean off any of that dust using your dust brush. And then for our chrome, we're actually going to be using the holographic chrome powder. Now if you're chrome stamping, you are going to need two stampers. I recommend using an old one for chrome, so this is just an old stamper. I save this simply for chrome stamping, and then ideally I would have done a black stamping polish, but mine had dried up, so I went with grey instead. You could use any color. I'd imagine it'd still work as well with white. White might even make the holographic particles pop a little bit more, but I did want it to be quite subtle over the black base because on this design I was going for that more dark vampy look. Now with chrome stamping, you want to stamp down your image and then very quickly start pressing on your chrome powder. Stamping polish dries very quickly, so if you leave it to completely dry, then you run the risk of your chrome powder not sticking to it. And I loved how this looked. The chrome particles will pop a little bit more once we come in and top coat and make them shiny. So I'm going to repeat those steps. I did clean my stamping plate after the first image, and then we're going to go in and stamp on the second one, which is just using the same spider web because I was trying to keep these images nice and simple. I had topped up my stamper with a little bit more holographic chrome powder at this point, and you can see I needed a little bit more, I think, because it helped make it pop. We're then going to dust off any of that excess. You need to make sure you're doing this step with a soft dust brush because we haven't top coated to seal anything in yet. So if you went in at this step with a hard nail brush, it would probably scratch into the chrome powder and the stamping polish. Now we're going to come in and seal in again using that crystal top coat. So I'm just going to put a thin coat of this over the top, and I love the crystal top coat because it encapsulates nail art beautifully, and then you can see the holographic effect has come through on those chrome powders and then also brought back our cat's eye to the shimmery goodness that it is. And then once again, we're going to finish off with a drop of Coconut Escape cuticle oil. I really love this design. I don't tend to go for dark Halloween nails, but this is definitely one that I would wear. I think you could easily wear this as a full set and maybe just have the stamping on 1 or 2 nails if you wanted to keep it a little bit more simple. On to the third design, I really wanted to do some more cutesy blooming ghosts. I do believe there's a tutorial up on the channel. I don't think it was from last Halloween. I think it was the year before where we did blooming ghosts, and we did them with the classic white ghost look. But this time I wanted to go a little bit cutesy, so we're going to use a Barbie Pink. Now starting off on this now though, I did do a base of Mystic Noir. Now this again, you want to use this nice and thin because it is a dark black gel polish, but it has the most beautiful silver pearlescent effect running through it. It is absolutely gorgeous, and this color teams up beautifully with Moonlight Pearl if you're wanting to do kind of like a black and white monochrome look but with some shimmer or pearlescent effect running through it. This looks stunning with the pearl chrome over the top as well. So I've done my second thin coat using that same sort of technique as what we did with the classic black, so just applying thin coats, curing each coat of course for 30 seconds if you are using an LED lamp and 2 minutes if you are using a UV lamp. Now for our ghosts, I'm going to use Barbie Pink, which is such a cute pink shade. I think it works perfectly for Halloween. I've seen lots of more cuter Halloween looks this year, and I think Barbie Pink is the perfect pink for those. Then for your blooming ghosts, you are going to need some blooming gel. I'm also using a large dotting tool and my Kiki London stripe liner brush. So I'm going to come in and paint on a thin layer of blooming gel to the entire nail because I am going to cover this with around, I think it's 4 ghosts. So I wanted to make sure that the nail was completely covered. Then I'm going to take my dotting tool, dot into the Barbie Pink, and then swirl this onto the nail. So rather than just dotting down, I'm kind of just doing a little circular shape just so we get a larger circle. And then I've kind of gone a little bit smaller for the next 2, and then because there was a little space up in the corner, I do add on another one. And then I'm going to take my stripe liner brush and just kind of like pull these ghosts into a point. I did this one going upside down. Now when I did this, I felt as though they looked like ghosts, and then when I showed a picture to my 8-year-old daughter, she told me that they looked more like jellyfish. So maybe it's more of a jellyfish ghost. Maybe it was the colours where it's not a classic white. It doesn't necessarily scream ghost to an 8-year-old, but it did make me laugh, and I still thought it was a really fun design. So this is where I just thought the corner was looking a little bit empty. So I come in with another one, and then again just pulling that down. If you feel as though you want a little bit more gel polish, you can certainly just come in and apply a little bit more. If you've got any air bubbles where you've got your blooming gel underneath, and then you can just pop them with a brush or dotting tool before curing. We then pop those into cure, and then I'm going to want to paint on some eyes and a little shocked mouth. So I'm taking classic black for this, and then just using a smaller dotting tool, we're going to dot on 2 eyes and then dot down a little dot and then kind of pull it down so it makes a bit more of a shocked face on the ghost. And then we're going to do this on all 4 of the ghosts, and then pop this in to cure for 30 seconds. So I had so much fun doing these, even though, like I said, I'm not a big Halloween nail art person. I did find these free designs really easy to do. They're definitely beginner friendly, definitely salon friendly. So let me know in the comments below if you've tried any of them, or if you have any other Halloween designs you would like to see. I think we've roughly got maybe 2 or 3 videos before Halloween, so I've got some time to create some more Halloween content. So let me know if there's anything in particular you would like to see, or would you prefer to see more autumn designs instead. So I did come in and top coat that again using the crystal top coat. Of course, you could top coat with any top coat of your choice. If you're wanting more strength, you could go in with the rubber top coat, or if you're wanting a matte effect, you could go in with the matte top coat. I then did finish off with the cuticle oil, and then I have left a little picture showing all 3 designs side by side, so you can let me know in the comments below which one was your favorite. As always, all the products I've used are listed in the description box below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy today's video, please do hit that thumbs up button and hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I shall see you all again in next week's video. Lots of love, take care, bye bye.